Well, downlink synchronization is the first step uh, in you need it just after you power up, and also whether you have any calls up or not, you need this synchronization, uh, because downlink synchronization means you have proper time alignment with the from the EV end with the downlink transmission from the E node B. And E node B sends different types of uh, information uh, or control messages, even when there is no real data transfer. You don't have any data session, but you need some notifications from the E node B. Okay, from the network side, lot of signaling or control messages uh, keep going on. So you to have need to read need to be able to read them, and for that purpose, you need to know where the radio frames start, because that is the beginning of the packets in the lower layer. Now, when do you need uplink synchronization? Well, you don't need it if if you don't have any active data transfer. But when you are uh, in a data session, then you are sending some data. Then the eNode needs to know where the where the radio frames start in the uplink transmission. Okay. Otherwise, the base station cannot read your information. So uplink synchronization is a requirement only for uh, only for data session periods. Well, I'm sorry, but I mean uh, this these things you probably cannot read from there. Okay, I copied it from my book. I'll tell you what is written over there. But is it possible for you to read what I have around the figure? You can see a slide, right? Timing offset.
So if you could zoom it in more, sir.
Okay, I'm already in the slideshow, so I don't think I can zoom in the slideshow.
So
Then
you can't zoom in a slideshow, but you can zoom in manually.
yeah, now you can read, right?
Yes, and now it is readable, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when you are sending the, I mean, the radio frames, let us also consider the downlink transmissions. So you have both together, downlink and uplink. Now, there will be some deliberate misalignments in this uplink and downlink transmissions because of propagation delay. You have some significant distance between yourself and the E node B, and the signal takes a while to get to the uh, other end, and so that is called propagation delay. The speed of your radio wave is the speed of light, c, and so the delay will be in the order of say tens of nanoseconds or something, but that still matters because here we have everything in terms of millisecond. The subframes have 1 millisecond length. Okay, so if you have tens of or hundreds of nanoseconds, So that matters. Now, this considering this propagation delay, uh, a, an alignment is maintained at the base station end with the necessary uh, deviation at the EV end. At the EV end, you maintain uh, some difference between downlink and uplink, uh, so that you have proper position. I mean, perfect alignment at the at the E node B end. Okay, let's see how it works. I have here 4 radio frames. The first one is the downlink transmission, and we are and it's at the E node B end. Okay, I'll zoom in and then you'll see what is written over there. So it's at the EV end. But when you uh, you are at some distance and this radio frame gets to you, okay, because of propagation delay, it reaches after a while. So I have time in the horizontal axis. So at the EVN, this radio frame reaches at this instant, which is little bit later, and the difference between them is the propagation delay. Okay, so downlink radio frame transmitted at the E node B, and downlink radio frame received at EV, but you have a propagation delay here. Okay, now the EV. Now we will look at the uplink transmissions. Okay, the EV transmits at this time instant. Okay, you may argue that how it comes back in time. Well, in the next radio frame, it will maintain this kind of time difference. Okay, when it finds that it receives here, then it will maintain a distance here. Okay, it transmits here. Now you see it is actually twice as much as the propagation delay. Probably the figure manifests that we have twice as much as time difference here. So it transmits here. Now, considering the same propagation delay in downlink and uplink, you have this uh, this guy uh, reaching the E node B. Here again propagation delay. So now what will happen? Actually, you will have these two. I mean this transmission at the E node B and reception at the E node B at the same instant. The radio frames at the E node B uh, will be aligned for both its transmission and reception. At the E node B end, they align, but at the EV end, they don't. There is a time difference. Okay, this time difference causes time alignment at the E node B end. Okay, well, but how does the EV come to know uh, how much it has to, how much this time difference should be? Uh, well, first of all, this is how things work. I mean, you have this kind of time alignment in reality, but there can be not exactly in relative. I mean, there are shifts, but this there is continuous adjustment of any deviations. Okay, things keep deviating, but there is also continuous adjustment to remove the deviations. Uh, so now you see that the E node B uh, actually has the in, I mean has I mean if this is the way things work, then the E node B knows where the radio frames start in the uplink transmission. Now what happens in reality, the E node B keeps checking the beginning of the radio frames, and it keeps sending some correction information to the E node B, to the EV, and that correction tells how much difference there should be. So the E node B has some continuous uh, notif- instruction for time adjustment at the EV end, and that information is piece of information is called timing offset. This is the amount of time that the EV uses for the difference between its reception and transmission. At the EV end, it uses a difference called timing offset uh, for its reception and transmission. And if the timing offset is perfect, then there will be perfect alignment between reception and transmission at the E node B end. So the E node B keeps sending this timing offset every now and then, uh, and makes proper adjustment here. You may be moving in the mobile environment, you may be moving, and that may be causing some shift continuously. So the E node B also keeps monitoring. Okay, when if you have just shifted little bit, the E node B does not receive it right there. Okay, it will be little shifted between its transmission and reception. There will be a little misalignment will be created as you move in the cell. So your movement means the distance between you and the E node B changes, and so the propagation delay also changes. Okay. So if the propagation delay, for example, if the propagation delay increases, you have gone a little bit farther away from the E node B, so the propagation delay has increased. So you see this time difference will increase. Okay, automatically you receive it little later, and when you receive it little later, okay, if you still use the same timing offset, the base station is still uh, going to come to know that you have gone further away. So there hasn't been any distraction so far. So you have shifted little bit. So you are still using the same timing offset, and from this position, from little bit. So when you use the same timing offset, you know this reception, okay, will also take place little later. The base station will find that well, okay, the timing, I mean the radio frame is little shifted. Okay, so you the base station sends a command that uh, that increases the timing offset. Okay? That increases the timing offset. So the E node B adjust, increase the timing offset. It tells how much it should increase, and accordingly it reacts, and so as an attempt to again create an alignment. Okay. Now this type of timing alignment in uplink is something that has been used in all generations. Okay. So you actually need it, and okay. Now how if okay, I'll skip this. I'll come back to this slide later. Okay. So Maintenance of timing alignment. Okay. Uh, by the way, let me tell you that every radio frame transmits one whole packet from the MAC layer. Sorry, every subframe, okay, transmits one whole MAC packet, and these are called MAC uh, MAC PDU or MAC. I mean transport block. Okay, maybe write down these terms. MAC PDU, and another name is transport block, in short TB. So the MAC layer keeps generating packets one after another, and these are called MAC PDU. The terms PDU, SDU, these things will also later address, but it's just and the name of a packet. Packet data unit. PDU means packet data unit. So it's just a MAC packet, but there is another term for the MAC packet, and that's transport block. So you keep sending transport blocks in every uh, subframes, um, and we the MAC PDU has some header. Okay, uh, I mean there is another type of thing. I mean similar with header, which is called MAC control element. Okay, so this MAC control element includes the timing offset information from the inode. When the inode bit sends a MAC packet for your ordinary data transfer, it is sending some MAC packets to your transfer block. But the header part or the MAC control element part is used for some control information. And a piece of information there is the uh, timing offset. Okay? So this is what has been mentioned here. I'm sorry, give me a second. Oh no. Okay. So from time to time, the eNodeB updates the uplink synchronization by notifying the UE about the correction needed in the uplink transmission timing. And to do so, the eNodeB uses some control element, okay, uh, in the uh, in the MAC PDO or MAC level packet, and that control element is called timing advance command MAC control element. In fact, why I'm talking about something similar to header but not header. Actually, For different purposes, different control elements are defined. And when you need, say, one type of, in the header, what happens? You have checked some headers for IP, TCP, okay, this kind of packets, maybe for Ethernet and all that. So in the case of headers, you have some fixed fields. It's not optional. I mean, some fields are optional, yeah, okay. Sometimes fields are optional, but so the normal header structure has some fixed fields. Uh, Normally, you need them, or even if you don't need them, you have the field. Okay, but in this case, there are many different purposes. There are many different types of control signaling required from time to time. When you need something, you add one type of control, or I mean one type of control signaling as the as something like header. Okay, so instead of using the term header, there is also header in the MacPDO, but there is something else which is like header, and these are control elements. So there are a whole set of control elements defined for many different purposes. When you need something, you use the right control element. You add that to the MacPDO. If you don't need that purpose right then, you don't add. Okay. In my book, chapter 6 covers Mac layer, and you'll find the list of all these Mac control elements and also how they work. Anyway, so one of them is the timing advance Mac control element, which includes the timing offset information. So timing advance command field, and the offset can take on many different values. Okay, uh, like you have positive or negative values. Okay, and the commands have a granularity of 0.52 microsecond. Okay, between, so it can send you, say, this command minus 16.15 or minus 15.63. Okay, or say just 0.52 microsecond, or so many different commands are there, so it will send one of them, and you will adjust the timing offset accordingly. Okay, now how is it created for the first time? Well, in fact, that part will be better clear when we go through the procedure how you first establish uplink transmission. To establish that activity, there is a procedure called random access. Okay, uh, I hinted this procedure sometimes that say if you want to make a call, first you send a few bits to the unode bit, and this is called uh, I mean, this is the first step in the random access procedure. So initially, the unode bit doesn't know who has sent the bits. Okay, but if the unode B is ready to hear from you, okay, then it will send a response message and tell you that okay, uh, go ahead and tell me more, give me more information. So that message is called random access response, RAR. Okay, we'll go through this procedure later in detail. And but this RAR message uh, includes the first timing offset information. It is when it receives the random access preamble. Okay, it it knows how it fits into the current uh, expectation. I mean, how it can compare it with its current expectation. You could be very close to the, you are only listening before you initiate the random access procedure. You had downlink synchronization. You always have that. Okay, so uh, I mean the time alignment from your end. Okay, but you don't know how close you are to the base station, or how far you are from the base station. So you don't know when you transmit something when the E node B will receive it. The time difference between its own transmission and reception is actually not known to the EV, because the EV doesn't know the distance. So it just uses some estimation. The EV uses some estimation based on its downlink reception and sends it. This first step is very random. Even the power, how much power you need, you don't know for the transmission. If you're close to the base station, you need to use very small amount of power. If you're away, then you need to use large amount of power. We'll see later with our Xscale that no, sorry, in Xscale we can't see, uh, but we have a uh, what is called spectrum analyzer at the lab. Okay, so using that lab, we can show you that in the random access procedure, the power level jumps. Okay, initially it uses very small amount of power. Gradually it increases until it here back from the until it receives the random access response. Okay, it keeps increasing the power. Anyway, that part we'll discuss later. So here it sends some bits, which is random access, uh, the first step in the random access procedure. But when the node receives those bits, it knows definitely at the time instant compared to its own downlink uh, radio frame, beginning of the radio frame when it is receiving. Okay. So, well, actually, it's not in terms of. Okay, I just a little. I mean the. I. I mean it's not really in terms of radio frame. It's actually it, it's a comparison with the subframe. Okay, because I mean the beginning has to. The time difference is very small. Okay. Uh, so we'll go back to the figure and make that clear again. Okay, I should have mentioned subframe, not radio frame. Anyway, so it knows where its own downlink transmission of subframe starts and when it is receiving the random access preamble. So the E node B can estimate how far you are or how much correction you need to have a proper timing for your downlink, for your uplink transmission. So when it sends the random access response message, it includes a timing advance command field, the same field, okay, which use the same type of field which you used also for maintenance. Okay. So this is the establishment of timing alignment, and that indicates how much uh, timing offset you should use. So this is the establishment of timing offset. However, you see that the when you establish first, okay, I mean the value you can set can be as large as 0.67 millisecond, and the granularity here is 0.52 microsecond compared to what you had for maintenance. It was the range was from minus 16 microsecond to plus 16 microsecond, so like almost 33 microsecond. Okay, that is the maximum, and the granularity was 0.52 microsecond. Okay. But when you establish the maximum range is up to 0.67 millisecond, wide, very wide. Okay. Now, can you? do you have any idea why you need this type of large range when you first establish? When you later maintain, okay, well, I'm maybe I just tell you, when you maintain later, you, you may be moving little bit, or even if you're using a vehicle, then you are moving at some velocity. So since the ENODB is continuously correcting you, there is no requirement of large adjustment. But when you first establish, you could be very close to the base station, or you could be uh, close to the border. So the requirement between these positions are really very large. How much is that? That actually relates to how much the maximum cell size can be. Okay, based on that, you should have a range of correction. Whether if you are very close, then you may, I mean, is the minimum. If you are at the, uh, I mean, cell edge, is the maximum. I mean, the requirement between the requirements. Okay, how much it is required also depends on where you have sent. But the total range of correction should be as much as what relates to the maximum cell size. And the maximum cell size in LT is 100 kilometer. 100 kilometers. Okay. Now from 100 kilometer, please calculate what should be the maximum possible timing offset. Can you tell me? From 100 kilometer, can you calculate what should be the maximum timing offset command from the ENODB? Okay, actually I have already shown it. What is the maximum timing offset? What should be the maximum timing offset? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay.
So dividing 100 kilometer by light speed,
Right, right. And then what do you get there?
I get 333 microsecond.
A little bit, uh, you're a little bit mistaken. 100 kilometers, it should be 0.33 microsecond. Oh, okay, 300. Yeah, you're right. How much in millisecond?
Then I need to divide again, I guess. Yes, sir. In that case, it will be
Point.
yes, sir. 0.333 millisecond.
Millisecond. But I show a little different value, right? What did I show?
0.67.
67. So can you tell me why you have the difference?
I think, sir, one of the reason can be stated when there's a high velocity movement. In that case, the distance increases rapidly. In that case, we will need more time delay, I guess.
Very smart. You are very smart. Of course, in the mobile environment, it can happen that you are moving very fast. Okay. Uh, but the correction also takes place very fast. Okay. So that's not the reason. Very frequently you are correcting. Every millisecond you can make the correction. I mean, you don't have to, but if you feel a requirement, you can correct it in every millisecond. So there is also fast adjustment facilities available. So that's not the point. But I appreciate uh, your thoughts. Anybody else?
Few more reasons. So one of the key challenge for 4G and then 5G and evoluted 5G is data communication with high speed, high velocity vehicle. One of the challenges to make fast communication with bullet trains. If my bullet train jumps from one cell to another cell rapidly, then there will also be a calculation delay at the core network. So we also need to consider that. And if
Yeah.
we consider all of those, I think the value should be near to 0.67. I mean, it's just my
Yeah.
root
Yeah,
calculation.
yeah. I appreciate. It's very good. I'm really happy that you guys are thinking. Okay, I mean, you are not just sitting idle over there. First of all, you are awake. You're not taking uh, taking naps here. Mm. You know what? When I was a student, I always would. I didn't sleep in the class, but I always wanted to do that. Okay. Um, so anyway, so it's good you were instead of sleeping, you are brainstorming. Well, these are not the reasons. Okay, these are smart answers, but the actual answer uh, is very low level. It the you know well. mm, The timing offset is a command from the E node B to indicate the amount of difference between its, I mean, between uh, the reception of the E node B and transmission of the reception at the EV end and transmission at the EV end. The EV knows where the subframes start when it receives, and accordingly it can start its subframe. So the difference between them is the timing offset, and that is actually twice as much as your propagation delay. Propagation delay is your one-way delay, but this one includes two, a round trip delay in both directions. In the downlink, you have this much delay. In the uplink, you will also have a delay. So there will be round trip delay if you consider, transmit the data transfer in both directions. There's a round trip delay which is double. And once you use a timing offset for the round trip delay, or twice as much as the propagation delay, then there will be alignment at the E node B end for reception and transmission, right? So when you are at the furthest corner, uh, you are in a 100-kilometer cell site, you are close to the border, but you have transmitted, okay, right, as if you were just next to the base station. Then the base station needs to send a command that, okay, just increase it to uh, that value of propagation delay. Okay, how much timing offset you should make now? Well, change it to a value by the total propagation delay of 100 kilometer, and then double that. So 0.333 millisecond and multiplied by 2 is 0.67 millisecond. Increase it by that amount. Okay.
So yes, বুঝতে পারছি. So basically, because of two-way communication,
Because of two-way communication. Okay.
the time shift is doubled.
Yeah. So now it is probably also clear that this timing offset is a command from the E node B, which the UV straight uses. It doesn't have to do understand a lot of things here. It just uses that much time difference between when it receives and when it transmits. Okay. So when it receives a command, it uses that command in the next subframe. In the next subframe, it applies that command. Okay, it uses the new time adjustment. Okay. So when you establish, you need no 2.67. But you should also now be able to calculate. Okay, that if you have moved little bit, so if you have moved like uh, 1 kilometer, or maybe say just a few hundred meters, then how much should be the timing offset? I mean, there should be a correction from the E0 B. The E0 will send a correction. How much that will be? You should now be able to calculate. Now, the last slide, the last couple of slides, um, we will discuss how you may lose your uplink synchronization. The downlink synchronization, um, as long as you are hooked up with the cell, you also have the downlink synchronization. But you may lose the uplink synchronization in any of these cases. Like first of all, radio link failure, that will actually, I mean, also uh, lose the downlink synchronization. But there are other things like non-synchronized handover. Well, that thing we may uh, discuss later. Okay. Now the last thing, expiration of a timer. Whenever you have uplink synchronization established or updated, you start a timer called time alignment timer. Okay. And if that timer expires, then you consider that the uplink synchronization is no longer correct. Okay, because you haven't I mean received correction from the E-node B, okay, in all these periods, and so I mean it will not be perfect if I send now. The So whenever it is established or updated, they starts the timer called time alignment timer. The E-node bit sets the value of the timer. Okay, it sends some broadcast information to indicate what value that you should use for this timer. If this timer, okay, is timer expires without any update from the E-node B, then the E-node B considers that okay, I don't have I mean proper uh, connection with the E-node B. The E-node B is probably not uh, hearing me properly. Okay, so it hasn't updated, and so I shouldn't transmit any longer until the time alignment is re-established. Okay. Uh, okay, so it considers that the time alignment has been lost, and when it cons- considers that it has been lost, it stops all transmissions, and also it flashes the okay, this thing I will HARQ will discuss hopefully in the next class. Okay, uh, so that HARQ can store some data transfer blocks. Okay, so those are just deleted. Okay, so after you lose the uplink transmission, the UE can only transmit for random access. Okay, like for the first case, like I said, that when you don't have any uh, prior data session and you want to establish from your end, so you send a few bits. That's how you begin. That's called random access. So you can only begin a random access procedure. That's the only thing you can do then. There's no other way for you to send to use uplink transmission. Uh, okay, so that is pretty much for uplink transmission. This was the last slide. Questions?
Sir, I have some few questions based on the previous slide.
Okay.
Sir, I wasn't able to cope up with all the lectures because in the previous class, especially the class during answer, I had to go. So I lose some time there. So it's sometimes hard to grasp all of the concepts. Sir, in OFDMA, I have some questions regarding OFDMA.
Okay.
So, sir, the frequencies since are orthogonal to each other, when I get a peak in one frequency, I will get zero values in other frequency, right, sir?
Right.
So my device or the eNodeB at least needs to search through that narrow region of frequency spectrum so that it gets a peak and a lower value for the other tools, right, sir?
Well, you keep transmitting symbols onto the subcarriers. You keep modulating them onto the subcarriers from the transmitting end. And whenever you modulate, it takes up some bandwidth. Okay, that bandwidth is 15 kilohertz. It's not a single frequency. It's 15 kilohertz. Okay, and at the receiving end, you also uh, have reception for different subcarriers with 15 kilohertz spacing. Okay. Now, by orthogonal, what is meant that the inter-carrier interference is zero at the center of your transmission, center of your reception. Okay. As you're receiving transmission from at all these frequencies, okay, all these subcarriers, you don't have intercarrier interference at the center of. So when you're receiving one symbol, receiving from one subcarrier, okay, at the center it's actually bandwidth. It's not a single frequency, 15 kilohertz bandwidth. At the center, you don't have interference from other frequencies. Okay, I mean the actually the center of the other frequency does not have component at the center. Okay, there is so the center is free from intercarrier interference, but other frequencies are not. So at other frequencies or within the whole uh, bandwidth, at other frequencies within the bandwidth, you have low CINR. Okay, CINR at some acceptable value. That's it. Okay, but since the centers, and when you say that the centers are orthogonal, there is no intercarrier interference. That's also uh, completely not true in practice. Okay, in practice, there are few things which cause little bit, even the Doppler shift, okay, causes
Yes, sir.
some deviations. So it's not absolutely free, okay, but theoretically it is free, and practically it is good enough. Okay. So the orthogonal term here uh, does not have very, high level of uh, benefit in practice. Okay, theoretically we are showing that the centers, okay, have zero interference from other transmissions. Okay, but you actually have a whole range of spectrum used. Okay, what else? But this is good enough. This the orthogonality that has been created this way sets the CINR to be low enough, okay, and that is what the engineers need. What else? Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to our next discussion.
Yes, you can, sir, continue, sir.
Okay. So before I move, let me just reiterate that uplink, downlink synchronization, all of your phones, I mean, if you are not using your phone for data purpose now, okay, then your phones have now downlink synchronization, but not uplink. Okay. If you are using some data session, then you have the uplink synchronization. And as soon as you lose the data session, you terminate, you lose the uplink synchronization. Okay. Okay. Now we'll have a short discussion on different types of identities used at the UE end. Okay. Okay. You all know that you have a identification with your phone number, okay, as a subscriber in the network, but your network does not identify you with your phone number in its core network, okay, or I mean when it processes uh, calls for you, okay, uh, so it uses a different identity, and that identity you have inscribed in your SIM card. Okay, this identity is called IMSI, International Mobile Subscriber Identity, IMSI. None of you really uh, know what your IMSI is. You don't know that. Okay? You don't. You are just given a phone number. If you have lost your SIM and you take a new one, then you definitely get a new IMSI. Every SIM card is built with a globally unique IMSI. Okay, it's globally unique, and your IMSI is just, uh, I mean, uh, hooked up with your phone number in within their database. Okay. So you know when you take a SIM, there is a registration. They do some registration, and that updates their database information for your phone number or your subscriber information. They now use the new IMSI. This IMSI has three parts. The first part is MCC, which is a country code, and usually a country has just one country code. Okay, say I mean uh, France, Spain, or Bangladesh. All these countries have just one country code. For Bangladesh, it is 470. It's not 880. Okay, again, that 880 is something used by people, not in the network. Okay, in network they use 470. Okay, in the network to route your call they use IMSI, not your phone number. Okay, also for international routing they don't use 880, they use 470, which is the country code for Bangladesh. But these things are not known to the users. Okay, this is something the I mean technical guys work with. The second part of the IMSI is the network code, and this is just different for different operators. When a new operator comes in, the government gives him a new MNC. Grameen is given 01 and Robi was given 02. Okay, so if you can find out your IMSI, okay, then you should see that it will match, okay, with your with your network operator. The third part is sort of random. I mean, the network just uses some unique number here for its for every SIM that it builds. Okay. For each of its SIM, for each SIM from the Grameen operator, it uses a unique number for this last part, MSIN, mobile subscriber identification number. So even if you have some old SIM, that will have a different number here. Okay, the total is not more than 15 digits. Okay, in not in binary. It's I mean in digital numbers, it's digital. So in binary, it is longer. In digital digits, it's not more than 15 for the total IMSI. So now from now that your identity in the network is IMSI. For your mobile equipment, there is also some identity, IMEI, and probably you guys already knew it. If you open your phone, you should be able to see a number, IMEI. Another identity you have that is given after you power up. Okay, this is called the total identity is called GUTI. Okay, globally unique temporary U identity. So this is an identity that you get after you power up. The identity IMSI you always have fixed, but GUTI will change. When you power up the network, you will assign you some GUTI, and also if you move, you will get a new GUTI. I mean, move to a different location, you will get a new GUTI, and even if you are at the same place, uh, from time to time, the network can change your GUTI. The GUTI has a few different parts, like you see, a part of GUTI includes your MCC and MNC. Okay, and these parts one part is called GUMMEI. A part of GUMMEI is actually MCC and MNC. What the rest are? Well, I didn't include it here, but I'll tell you that we know that MME is the component in the core network, and so that MME allocates the GUTI. Well, you were saying a while ago when I was asking you about the difference between 0.67 and 0.33. You're saying that the core network updates. Okay. Uh, well, that adjustment, the adjustment of timing alignment, takes place from the eNodeB. The eNodeB itself sends the adjustment command. So it comes in the MAC layer. Okay, the MAC control element includes this information, and probably we covered before that this is called access stratum, MAC, RLC, PDCP. So the operation in these layers are handled by the eNodeB, the eNodeB itself. The core network is not involved here. The core network doesn't know whether you have moved or not. The core network doesn't correct. So since it is taken care of at the eNodeB, it is actually fast. But this GUTI allocation takes place from the core network. The core network allocates the QT. The component in the core network is actually MME, we know, and we'll have a discussion later which will show that in the uh, in a physical in a geographical area, a number of MMEs are grouped. Okay, so maybe a part of a big city will have the MMEs grouped. Okay, you may split the big city into 3 parts, and in every part, all the MMEs will be grouped. Okay, um, the MME itself has some identity. Every MME has some identity, and when you group, the group will also have another identity. Okay, so this whole thing creates an identity for the MME. So this part, okay, this thing will also, these are now identities from the network side. Okay, so you're supposed to discuss the identities from the network side too, but it comes in here anyway. So here, this MMEC is the identity of the MME itself. Every MME has an identity like that, but there's a prefix which is its group number. Okay, that tells you if you have say 3 different groups, the groups will have different numbers in here. So this is how the all the MMEs in the network will have some unique MMEI. Once again, all MMEs under say Grameen operator, or in any country. Okay, it may be a large country. So all MMEs in the country will have a unique MMEI, and that has 2 parts. Uh, Different groups, there are different MME groups created, so that each group has some number, and under a group there are multiple MMEs. Each MME has a number. Okay, so that's how you have a unique number. But that's preceded by this MCC and MNC, which actually make this GUMMEI as a globally unique identity for a particular MME. For a particular MME, every MME has a globally unique number, and that is GUMMEI, and that is used as a part of your GUTI. When the MME allocates you GUTI, a part like IP version 6 number of IP version 6 address. Okay. A part of it is made MAC address, or you use some other information within itself. So you have GMMEI of the MME which has allocated you the GUTI. Okay, that's one part. The rest part you use for the U itself. There will be many different UEs from under the MME. So all these UEs will be given different numbers here. But I said that it's a temporary number. It can be changed from time to time. Okay, if you have moved to a different location, then also it can be changed. So it's a temporary number. So that there is a term temporary. Okay. Okay, here also. Okay. Another thing I just missed that I said that MCC is unique for a country. Okay, almost for all countries, there is only one MCC. Like in Bangladesh, we have only 470. But USA has a few. I think 4. I don't remember exactly, but probably there are 4 MCC for USA. Okay. Uh, I don't think that brings any advantage, but I don't know. They may have some other purposes, uh, like some to take care of some military activities or something. I don't know why they use. Why they have the provision for the use of multiple MCC. But you actually don't need. You need one MCC for one country. Okay. Now, this GUTI is a long identity of the EV. A short form of the GUTI is also created for some quick activities, and that is called STMZ. MTMZ, people call them this way, okay, TMZ, although it is TMSI, but people call TMZ, okay, STMZ. So that uses that MTMZ part and only the MMEC part, okay, so that forms STMZ. That's a short form of GUTI. The GUTI is allocated to the EV when you first power up, after you power up, okay, and also I said, okay, that if you have moved to a different location, or okay. Now this STMZ, or I mean these things are just temporary, so there is very slim chance that some uh, evil doers will come to know your identity. I mean this temporary identity, the TMC. Okay, when you have powered up, you have got a new one, and also it can change over time. So this is used uh, when you communicate with the network, okay, the STMZ. If in the case of IMZ, since it's a permanent identifier, there is a chance that the eavesdropper, okay, or some miscreants will try to find out your IMZ, and then if they come to know, when you start some communication with the network, they will keep checking the signal because it's wireless, okay, the signal is already in the air. They keep checking the signal, and then they, I mean there is a lot of security uh, measures, but if they can breach all the security, and if they can capture the information from the IMSI, they will identify that these are the messages of you, because they'll be interested, the evildoers will be interested uh, in in some particular person, okay, okay, they will have some target people, so they'll be identified that okay, this is actually communication from that person or those people, and then thereafter they can try to get more information, or they can even insert some information from their end. So this is why IMSI is not normally used in over-the-air messages. When there's communication between the network and you, IMSI is not used. Rather, STMC is used, which is temporary and which is often changed. Okay, well, it is already 11:45, so I should let you ask questions. We'll move from there. We can finish that presentation. Any questions?
So inshallah, in the next class, we will, if you discuss it more elaborately, we will have more questions.
Okay, thank you. And I'll see you again on the day of our class test. Okay, I'll send you a message ahead of time about the length of the question of the exam, how long it would be. Okay, so we'll begin at 3:30. It will not be longer than longer than half an hour. So we'll finish by 4. Okay, but I'll still send you the exact length of the question exam. Uh, if you don't have any questions, then we can wrap up for today.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, I just thought I was waiting for the page numbers to
Yeah,
print.
I will send you them. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
Okay.